Hello, my name is Madalina Raicu and today I'm going to present to you my oil analyst. The aim of this application is to combine good visualization strategies and some simple natural language processing to help a fundamental analyst answer the complex question of what drives a change in the price of crude oil. After I have done my research, I have found out that the price of oil is driven by a set of factors: supply, demand, and oil futures, but also geopolitical events which influence the supply and the overall market sentiment. However, the model expands a little bit and there are multiple entities which need to be considered. When we talk about supply, we need to consider countries, companies, and geographical resources. For demand, economic growth of the countries and alternative energy preference. And geopolitical factors like sanctions, tensions between states, even climate change. To find this data, we can use financial reports or we can refer to events observed in the latest news. This project gathers data that an analyst will need to discover by himself. We need in the first place quantitative data, data about the price of crude OPEC oil, West Texas Intermediate, and Brent, and numbers related to supply and demand from International Energy Agency reports. But also qualitative data, events, headlines processed from over 100 news sources like Bloomberg or CNBC. This project should empower an analyst and it can be used in a pedagogical setting as well. Let's start with a user story. I am an analyst that wants to see the price of today and then I would like to build a report related to the fluctuation of the price in the month of February 2019. So here is the application. I'm going to check the price of oil and I'll see the price of crude oil in the last few days, but also a timeline plot in order to observe the fluctuation in the past few days. In the last two tabs, we can see plotted the evolution of OPEC crude oil, but also the evolution of WTI and Brent prices over longer periods of time. However, I am more interested in what influenced the price of oil. In this graph, we will observe the oil influencers. It has the same structure as the conceptual model that I have shown you previously. This graph is really interactive, and each node is attached to a topic and a date, and it contains data related to that specific topic in relation to the price of crude oil. I have clicked on the node called Price of Crude Oil. Here we see the same price component with today's price. What I need to do next is to make a report for the month of February 2019. As I will navigate with the sliders, we can observe the price changing and its fluctuation plotted in the time series. What I will be looking for will be to discover February's low and high and analyze that in my report. As I am watching the evolution of the price, I observe here a new low, 8th of February, 61.37, and also a new high, 22nd of February, 66.56. Now let's see what influenced the price for those days. This graph is really interactive. Each node will retrieve different articles related to oil futures, oil companies and countries, news related to economic growth, and so on. Let's say I am interested in the market sentiment. You can observe a timeline with all the events related to the market sentiment of that day. If I want to understand what influenced the price for the 8th of February, I might want to look and analyze previous events. So I'm going to check a few days before and select 5th of February to see the news related to the market sentiment then. I'm going to open the second and the third article. We can see that each article has a title, a source, and a description, on which we will perform named entity recognition in order to spot out what an article is about. For example, here we have this title: Oil price slides on disappointing US data after hitting 2-month high. From the entities recognized, I spot the date of Monday, the entity OPEC, which is the Organization of Petroleum Countries, the United States, and Venezuela. The entities help me spot out faster what happened. So oil prices started to fall from Monday because of a slowdown in the global economy was reported. However, the losses might be limited in the future because OPEC will cut down their supply and the United States will put sanctions against Venezuela. So this means tighter supply, and tighter supply may indicate in the future higher prices. So I suppose that the price falls for now, but I know it goes up, achieving a new high on the 22nd of February. Let's see what happened in the next days. I will navigate with the slider a little bit closer to 22nd of February when a new high was achieved. For example, let's check on the 19th of February. I see here this title that says, "Why the oil rally isn't over yet." So there is a bullish sentiment spotted. Let's see why. We observe the entities, OPEC+, Saudi Arabia, and the quantity, just 9.8 million barrels. This helps me decipher easily the description. Saudi Arabia, which is part of OPEC, cut down their production to just 9.8 million barrels per day, which is farther less than their normal production. So there was clearly a supply cut that influenced the price going up in the next few days, achieving a new high on the 22nd of February. If we click on the source, we can read the whole article. In order to understand better the relationship between supply and demand, we can select the node here called supply. Here we have different plots related to the global supply from the International Energy Agency. It would be easier for me to compare it directly with the global demand. Here we have different types of visualizations from which an analyst can choose. I will choose the time series for this case, and I see here that in the first quarter of 2019, the supply is estimated to be 101 million barrels per day, while the total demand is 99.3 million barrels per day, which is way less than the total supply. So now we understand why the OPEC, Organization of Petroleum Countries, has cut down their production. Down in the page, we have more data related to supply and demand of OECD and non-OECD regions for different years. For example, here we can choose 2018 and select a favorite type of visualization, either that be a pie chart or a pie grid. While I am scrolling through this page, you can observe that further analysis can be performed with all this data. However, I will not go too much in detail with other user scenarios in this screencast. But I would like though to tell you what is behind all of this. In order to achieve high performance on this interface, I needed a very good architecture. As I went back and forth with the sliders, you have seen that the application was retrieving lots of articles from different news sources. I have reduced considerably the number of requests to the news API, and also to the NLP server that I have created. Whenever my application needed events from a date related to one topic, such as oil futures, for example, my Node.js server would request the data from the news API and send all the articles to my NLP server in order to retrieve entities, and then store both the articles and the entities into a scalable NoSQL database. These would also be cached in the server and the Angular component. This way, if a user navigates a topic and a date, the application would check first if the articles are cached by the interface, or if they are already stored in the main server cache. If not, they might be inside the database. But if the articles requested are brand new, then the request will be performed. This architecture is improving a lot the performance of the application, and at the same time the user experience. This interface brings NLP techniques and visual metaphors to aid the understanding of the user. Time series for price data, and sliders to check the evolution and understanding the cause of change, conceptual graph for influential factors, and also visual charts for supply and demand, timelines for the order of events, and NLP techniques for news articles. I hope that this interface could help an analyst gather data and maybe help him a little bit in his decision-making process. Thank you so much for listening.